Yeah. ExploitNation coming live and in color. Don't diss this shit or we'll bum rush your mother. Listen what I'm saying, it's for real, not playing. Uncle Bill is the man, now hit your knees and start praying. Got power like the bear, but ass all thick and fat. Put 2 and 2 together, and that's where it's at. Yeah. You count the stars while you guzzle the pee. Hope you like to look at who is, cause that's all you gonna see. We are the nation of exploitation. ExploitNation. He's harder than a rock and he can't be stopped. You suck a step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. The boys from the hood are on the MIC, spitting out the rhymes as JC Ice and Wolfie D. CK is the boss, crossing T's and dotting I's. He tells the truth, the whole truth, and never tells a lie. ExploitNation. Yeah. ExploitNation. ExploitNation.
What is up, Bulls?
Damn.
Yes. And
that AI amazing? It gets better and better as the days
it
go
does. It does.
That's even better than the early ones that we used for some of the shows.
It's created some real fucking amazing theme songs. But yeah, welcome to another edition of ExploitNation. I am Uncle Bill, and Phantasmat is over here beside me yet again. We've been waiting on doing this one for a long time. Like, we talked about this because of one movie, really. And like, essentially we're doing this entire show just to talk about one movie, if I'm being honest. And it's really is worth an entire show. So
yeah, definitely.
But we'll get into that later. Mark is supposed to be here at some point. I don't know when the hell Mark is going to be here. Mark just comes and, he's got the money. He doesn't need the show. So he'll grace us with his presence at some point here. But tonight we're going to be talking about siege films. I wanted to call it Under Siege films, but I didn't want a bunch of dumbasses showing up thinking it was like Steven Seagal movies. Like we were going to do the entire Under Siege catalog or something. No, I don't want to talk any about that carrot eating guy. Like, I just have no interest.
No.
But these are movies that are based around usually a group of people that are holed up somewhere and are under siege. And the exploitation version of this is kind of like they're usually under siege by some sort of gangs or, some sort of killers, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not a trend that's, been going on. It's been going on for a long time, not just the 70s, the 80s. This has been going on back to the 50s and 60s in movies, probably earlier than that. But the ones that we are really going to focus on are the exploitation style ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we don't really see that many siege style films though anymore. I was trying to think of like real recent within the past 2-3 years. There hasn't been anything that I can recall.
No, not a whole lot of great movies like that. No. I mean, we mentioned some earlier, we'll get into later about that are kind of modern versions of this style of movie. But I feel like this style of movie really took off in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. It really had a niche of films that we're going to talk about, which are all great. Let's see who we got in the chat here. We've got quite a few people already in here. Foz is in here. He says, and I was like, what the fuck? So Foz says that Demi Moore just won best performance by an actress in a motion picture, musical or comedy for The Substance. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Does horror even have a its own category?
It doesn't drama or something have it? Why is it in musical or comedy?
I mean, I did laugh a lot during The Substance, but I don't think it's a comedy film.
Yeah. And then,
but that's awesome. I mean, at least something.
Matter Pat says the same thing. Nubbins is here. X-Ray Punch, Greg Brewer. We got Scratch in here. How you doing, man? Yeah, we hope that Mark is going to see the live stream. Blu-ray Addict. Wiley J. Draw says that Rio Bravo was the original Siege film. Well, yeah, when we get to Assault on Precinct 13, we'll talk about Rio Bravo for sure. Oh, man, I didn't even think about this one, but this is exactly right. VFW.
I didn't see it.
You never saw that? It is like a very, very much a modern siege film about a VFW that kind of gets like they're all holed up inside of a VFW. Yeah, that would have been a good one.
Hell yeah. I'm going to put that on my list then because that looks cool. I see the poster.
Carter's in here. He says Future Exploitation Nation, Big Mama's House, Norbit, and Mrs. Doubtfire. No, that's not a bad concept. But I got one more planned for this run after this one. So we'll see.
Okay.
Skullmore. Skullmore's one I haven't. The weather in Kentucky, Rambo. Good to see you, man. Red says, how's the weather in Kentucky? Baltimore is supposed to get up to a foot of snow. We got today probably here 5-6 inches ice. Ice the last time I went outside.
What?
Yeah, it's not good. So,
all right. So like we're supposed to get like around 3 inches where I'm at. And it hasn't, I mean, there's snow on the ground, but it's not actively even snowing right now. I don't think it's supposed to start till midnight. So I'm looking outside and it's just, snow on the ground, but nothing crazy. Not even an inch, I would say. But we'll see what happens by morning. I hope it hits. I want to see something crazy.
I mean, it's not really crazy. It was like, because I went out there a little bit earlier and there's like a solid sheet of ice on top of the snow.
Yeah.
And you'd make snowballs and stuff and you could knock somebody's ass out with them. They're like bricks.
It'll go through a window. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, that's what it's like. And the roads are completely ice. Like I looked down there and it was just like solid sheet of ice. So that's what the weather's like right here.
Oh, and what a better night. What a better night to be doing siege films then. Right?
Exactly. It's not supposed to get any higher than I think 30s, maybe like 33, 34 degrees. And for the next week, it's supposed to be in the 20s. Yeah. So it's going to be a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. It's super cold all week.
Yeah. From dusk till dawn, I guess that could be considered a siege. Yeah. You're under siege of vampires. Yeah. Toy Soldiers definitely is. It's like an action version of that concept. Yeah. So's Red Dawn for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that you could like technically, if you wanted to get real technical about it. I mean, there's, one that I don't know if you were planning on bringing up. I mean, Dawn of the Dead, that's technically a siege film, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, there's so many that we could like end up talking about, but there are ones, like I said, technically you could call that a siege movie, you call types of these movies siege films, but I think we're focusing a little bit more on the kind of exploitation style, at least for some of them.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the kind of the bent that this show is going to take, is more towards the 70s and 80s exploitation style. But there's a ton of movies that could be considered that for sure. Axel says every time he eats at Taco Bell, there's a siege in his bathroom. That. Outpost is a Nazi zombie siege film. Nubbin says.
Gremlins.
Demon Knight.
Yeah, Demon Knight.
So I don't know. I'll throw one out there. Do you want to start? Do you want to start this with the one that we wanted to talk about?
I know Mark has seen it, so I don't know if we should wait for him to come in.
Mark needs to get his shit together.
I know.
All I can say.
Yeah, we can start with a different one.
Where's he at? Let's see if he's even.
I'll throw one in. And this could be one that maybe maybe isn't directly in line with some of the other ones we're talking about, but maybe it, maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but it's in my top 5 favorite films of all time, and I just can't really find any flaws with it. Dog Day Afternoon.
I knew you were going to say that for some reason because
Yeah.
that's the one that, yeah.
So that's, it's the early 70s, and just, I mean, that movie never ceases to like blow me away. Oh, there
What's
he
up,
is.
Mark?
What's going on, guys?
Finally.
Sorry I was late. Hope I didn't miss anything.
Oh, you missed
No,
the whole thing.
We're it's done. We're finished. Police Academy 6, City Under Siege. Somebody put, yeah. That's definitely one. We're just talking about Dog Day Afternoon. I don't know. Have you seen that one, Mark?
Yeah. Did you guys go over like what siege movies are and stuff like that yet?
Yeah, we
Okay,
kind of went over
sort
that.
of,
So
yeah.
we're gonna take the crux of this show to be like this. I was saying like the 70s and 80s exploitation style films. There's a ton of stuff that you could consider a siege movie, but normally speaking, when I think of a siege movie, I think of like Assault on Precinct 13 as the template of that kind of movie.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's one of my favorites. Would it have been considered like one of the first that became a cult siege movie even?
I don't know, because I feel like Assault is still a bit underrated.
Really?
It
You
does
think
have,
so?
I
Or
mean,
outside like the Carpenter fans or horror community?
Yeah, I mean,
I think so,
I
yeah.
kind of do too. Yeah, it's not a known movie to anybody except people that are really into these kind of films or Carpenter fans. Like, I just don't feel like that movie reaches that far beyond.
That's crazy to think you would. It seems like it should be by now, especially, but
yeah, I mean,
I never thought about it that way.
If you take all of his, like you take Christine and The Fall, any of that stuff, from the early time period, I still think it's more well known than Assault for some reason.
But I think that, but real quick, back on to Dog Day Afternoon, like it's kind of slightly exploitation. It doesn't really go into that territory, but it's got that vibe to it in and of the subject matter of the early 70s, and the character is going to rob the bank to pay for his lover's sex change, and it's got that's that early 70s kind of territory of that type of subject matter. It's not an exploitation style the way it tells the story, but it's kind of floating in that direction. But again, it's based on a true story. I don't know if anybody hasn't seen it, they wouldn't know. Definitely based on a true story and pretty damn accurate to the actual events that happened. But it's really a character study. It takes place in a bank. They're all trapped in a bank. It's Al Pacino in there, and it's like funny at times. A lot of the lines of dialogue really, make you laugh because the bank robbery goes so wrong in so many ways, and you just like every performance in that film is like top tier. Like in it, it's just such a heavy hitting movie. The ending always gives me fucking chills down the back of my spine. Like it's like the perfect movie. And I guess if you want, it's kind of a siege film. Obviously, I think it would fit in that. But I just had to bring that one up because I just love that movie so much.
Did Sarandon get an Oscar nomination for that? Seems like somebody, maybe it was him or Pacino or.
I don't know. I'm gonna look that up now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, I don't.
Seems like somebody did. Hold on, let me check.
I don't know if it was it nominated for Best Picture at all?
I don't know. Somebody else probably knows.
Yeah, Best Picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nominated. It did not win, unfortunately. I mean, yeah, so Best Actor in a Leading Role, Al Pacino, Chris Sarandon.
Yeah.
Supporting role, Sidney Lumet, great director.
It won for Best Original Screenplay.
1975. Yeah, he said it was had a Murderer's Row Best Picture nominees. Yeah.
But if anybody hasn't seen fucking Dog Day Afternoon, holy shit! I mean, put it on your list for Q1 of this year and watch that shit because it's a heavy hitter for sure. A really
There's-
enjoyable movie.
There's
Yeah.
something about this style of film, though, that I always really loved, going all the way back to maybe like Night of the Living Dead. Just the idea of people stuck in a house or a setting or something like that, and they're fighting like things that are coming, from outside. There's something that I always really loved about that from the time that I watched that movie. And I'm not sure it's a survivalist part of it, or if it's just and you'll see a common theme in a lot of these movies too is like the ingenuity part where they have to make traps and things like that to survive. And it's like a
They have-
grown up Home Alone or something.
They have to make
killer.
the most, even if it's not traps, it's just they have to make the most of their surroundings, which is limited.
Right.
So I think it activates in the viewer, it activates that survival instinct in you while you're watching it. A lot of these, if it's done well, if it's written well, and there's a couple of these that absolutely activate that kind of, it's got you on the edge of your seat type feeling of just like, what are they going to do? And what would I do in that situation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of get to live vicariously through the movie to figure out,
Right.
So, okay. Mark, since you're here, I'm going to bring up one of my favorites that I know that you like. I'm not sure how you feel about this movie, but I've owned this in like 15 different versions, and I think it's as close as any of these movies ever got to being a Siege film. But I think it's probably one of my favorite Siege films because it's so over the top, violent, and just goofy and aggressive. And that is Death Wish 3.
Oh, yeah.
So to give you an idea, like the concept of Death Wish 3 is because most of the time it's something, that's happened to his family or something like that, or something that's, and he's at home but he's away when it happens. And this one is something that happens to like, some like a buddy of his, like way, far away. And he ends up going over to this apartment complex to investigate the murders. And inside this complex, he kind of figures out that all these people are kind of being held hostage by this gang that is terrorizing everybody and just causing chaos, which is a common theme in these movies. And in this one, so he decides, all right, being Charles Bronson, he's like, fuck it, like I am just going to take them on. And when he starts to do that, of course, it angers the head gang member, who I cannot remember that guy's name, but he's a ginger. He's awesome in this movie. He looks like Scott Farkus a little bit, but he is like the head of the gang and ends up going to jail because of it. And Bronson is in there at the same time with him, and he swears like a blood oath that he'll kill him and all this stuff. So then he starts to attack like all of these apartments, anybody that helps him or anything like that. So Bronson decides to make all these traps, which is my favorite part of the movie. It's Home Alone way before Home Alone, really. And like one of them is just, he'll put a board of nails down and like it flies up. If you come in the window, it'll fly up. Or I think it's just a board, and then like it just flies up, and then there's like a thing of nails and stuff where if you try to come in, like you'll step on them. Very, very similar to Home Alone too. And yeah, he just takes on the entire gang, which culminates in like one of the best endings to any of these movies.
Yeah.
Ever.
That shit insane. Yeah, just balls to the wall. Balls out, man.
It's crazy because I think with the end of the second film, they killed off most of his immediate family, so they needed somebody. They're like, well, maybe he has friends, so let's kill his friend.
Yeah, that's true. Like he didn't have any family left. Now that you mention it,
yeah. And the whole attack on the apartment building is just great. It's just so much chaos and fun stuff going on.
Remember that old couple that invited Bronson in and served him cabbage? Yeah.
3 is crazy. I've said this in the past about Winter. Like you look at that movie and you look at the first one, it's such a departure, but in the right way, because you could never replicate that 70s vibe of the first movie anyway. that whole
Yeah,
gritty
they had to go
atmosphere.
all out with that. That's
Exactly.
the perfect way to, like you said, to kind of grow from the first and second movie.
Right. And as over the top as it is, like it just ramps up all the fun of it. Like it's great. I love 3. I still like 2 a lot more, but 3 is
Yeah.
still
I
incredibly
mean,
fun.
3 is almost like, I don't know how to explain it, but like the first 2 are very gritty and
Mhm.
like very serious and like,
Downbeat.
but
Yeah.
this one is to me like what Rambo 2 is to Rambo. You know what I mean? Like Death Wish 3 is where it begins to get like really kind of over the top. The gun that he uses in it,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and all that. And just the characters and the giggler and all that stuff. And just it's so over the top that it's a lot of fun still, but it's not rooted in reality really at this point. I mean,
No, I mean you give the lead character a bazooka.
yeah,
Like,
that's what I was gonna say.
You jump the shark. Like it's so insane.
It's still my favorite end to any like Death Wish movie by far, by a mile. But yeah, I mean, like you said, like the ending of the fucking movie is somehow or another he gets a bazooka and the guy's holding a gun on him, like dead to rights, but he just is so shocked that he would dare pull a bazooka on him that he freezes, and Bronson just blows the entire side of the building out with him along with it. And it's glorious. It really is.
I think they arrest Bronson at first because they think he's killed his friend, but he really didn't. Like the cops just happened to come in at that moment. But I think they recognize him as being the vigilante.
Well, the cops are in on it in this one. Like the guy is like, you know, I know what you're doing. Just feed me like arrests and things like that. And you can just, I'll just let you continue to do whatever you're doing. So he knows like what's going on in it and stuff. But like, and he wants rid of this gang as well. But something about this one, like something about Death Wish 3 is just so much more violent and crazy than any of the other Death Wishes. I think any of them really. I mean, 4 kind of has the same vibe as 3, but like
kind of, yeah.
I think 3 really captured like something special.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen 3, honestly. I watched last one I've seen most recently was part 2. So I need to check out 3 again. It's been quite a few years. But
Yeah,
I
3
of course it's very memorable though. So it's not like, you know, what happened in that movie? You know,
3 is the
know.
3 is the Evil Dead 2 of like Death Wish movies. It's just
right. Yeah, that's a good
slapstick
way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what people have to say here though. Yeah. Death Wish should have ended with 3. How do you top that? Vandroff says Death Wish 2 is still his favorite. 4 feels like a direct to video movie. I kind of feel that way, but it's still good. 5 to me really feels like a direct to video movie. It's not as good at all, but I really like Michael Parks in it, so I can't say a lot about it. It's like a live action Contra. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It still does have a grindhouse like exploitation vibe to it. I feel like it's more of an action movie at that point though than it is anything.
I'd say so as well. Winter definitely directed it like an exploitation film.
Yeah.
I remember I think it's the stuntman that worked on it. He said Winter was extremely reckless, and there's a scene where he had to jump over some flames or something and land on some boxes. And Winter turned up the flames even higher so the scene would look that much cooler. And the guy broke his pelvis and his back, and but Winter's like, we got the shot. It looked amazing. And the guy's in the hospital like, fuck you. Like, I'm in pain.
Exactly.
Fucked up my career. Like, I might not be able to work. But he's like, we got the shot though.
I think that was the last collaboration that Bronson had with him, wasn't it? Or one of the final ones he had with him. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Jackson Jack. You gotta answer Jackson's question.
No, not this again. You have to have sex with me. Bronson blows you. No,
always
I don't
comes
think it's
back
to
worth
me and
that.
God.
No,
I don't-
it's
I don't think it's worth just dying a horrible death. The end of that. Yeah, it's true. He killed an entire neighborhood and Death Wish 3.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Great
moving
movie.
on. What do you guys got?
Go ahead, Mark. You pull one up if you got one.
Well, I was gonna go with the one that kind of started all this, and that's Siege.
All right, I was waiting on it. Yeah,
I was telling him we
we all got
basically
it
did
right
this.
here.
We basically did this show just to
Yeah.
talk about this movie. If you haven't
Oh
seen
shit,
this,
I'm backwards here.
so I
It's a
know
must-know.
probably not a lot of people are familiar with this movie, but this is a Severin release. It's
Mhm.
just called Siege. If you don't
Yeah.
have it, buy it now. Like,
Alternate title is self-defense, I think.
if you're wondering,
Okay.
is this movie worth it? Yes, it is worth it.
Uh-huh.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is a paid advertisement. I'll advertise this movie till my dying day. I'll tell you what.
Same here.
Yeah, 1983.
What a year. And also what a film. Like, so
Yeah,
you talk
so-
about a movie
yeah.
like ahead of its time too. Jesus, man. Like the subject matter that it deals with at the beginning of the movie and like where it
Yes.
goes.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how to talk about it with
I
in
know,
this
right?
era.
I mean, I think you just have to just talk about it because there's no way around, it's only one kind of part of the movie, which is the beginning, which really gets into that. The rest of the movie has nothing to do with the touchy subject matter, if you want to say. But
Right.
Right.
so I guess we should just explain like kind of the plot, right? How this
I think we got
comes
to
to be.
because
Yeah.
like I mean
So
there's
yeah,
no way to do this without just talking about it. So
yeah.
for the
But
easily offended, I apologize.
the lead guy's name in the movie is Goose, right? The guy with the
Goose.
baseball or trucker hat, and he's got the jacket.
Um.
Sort of the one who's like the main shithead of like all five guys.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it
Goose.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it's Goose.
So in the beginning of the extended cut of the film, which is like 10 minutes longer, this whole scene where he's with his wife or his girlfriend, I'm not sure if they specify which, but they live together and he's barricading the outside of his house because there's a strike with the police force and he's sort of trying to protect his property. And he's such a fucking piece of shit. Like we know that in the movie, but in that extended cut, you get a little bit of a deeper look into even more how fucked up this guy is because he doesn't even treat his wife well. Like, so she makes like pottery and stuff, and she doesn't want him to go out. And he goes in her office because she's trying to stop him from going out. So he goes in there, he breaks everything. She starts crying and bawling her eyes out. Even before that, like she makes him lunch or something, and he's just being really mean to her, even about the sandwich, because I guess it like wasn't made correctly. So yeah, he's just a fucked up human being in the movie. He reminds me of the Thomas Millian from Almost Human. That kind of character.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he reminds me of.
A sociopath,
right?
Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, just a straight like crud
So
kind of sociopath.
And that's the extended cut of the movie has that kind of
that's in the opening
intro.
right?
Yeah, so I can see why they left it out because I think the movie works really well even without that.
Mm-hmm.
But
it gets right into the action, right?
Yeah, because this is a really fast-paced movie.
First of all, can we talk about the fact I marked out because I didn't remember this the first time I watched it, that the gang is called the New Order. Like the first thing that went through my mind was fucking new order. Like they had their own theme song and like 500 members and Vincent's in it.
But so there's a police strike. It takes place in Canada. It's Nova Scotia, I think, right? So there's a police strike. So of course, no police presence on the streets. Everybody's preparing for this. They don't want anybody to go out. And the New Order is a gang of hoodlums, we'll call them. And they're going to go out and do their thing
Yep.
because there's no police presence. So the New Order also happens to be extremely anti-homosexual.
They're very, very
Extremely.
bigoted in almost every way you can imagine. Yeah.
And they don't mince words when it comes to letting you know how they feel about people of that persuasion.
Right.
So one thing that I kind of found strange though, so their mission at the beginning of the movie is they're just going to go to this bar, which is of course it's a gay bar. Why the bar is open during this, I don't know. You know, why would the bar be open if it's supposed to be this? Everybody's kind of, you know, trying to play it safe and all that, but yet there's this bar open. And granted, there's not that many people in the bar, but you're kind of like, wouldn't you just close down for the night? But then we wouldn't have the movie.
Right. That's actually a line that she gives him in the extended cut. She says something like, there are no bars open. And Goose says, I know one bar that's open. We're just going to go have a good time. We're not going to do anything.
Mhm.
So the gang goes down there, and one of the first things you're already going, I know where the vibe that this movie's going to have. They get to the bar, and it's like a kind of a, you know, one of those underground type bars where you actually have to walk down like that big flight of steps to get down into the alley or wherever it is. And it's got like the little sign outside. It sets up the thing really well. But they're walking in and they have these weapons. They got like bats and like big pieces of fucking 2x4. And they're all walking down going, you know, they're all going,
They're like the gang
with it in
from like the gang from River City Rampage from Nintendo. Like
they're like all
walk
beating
around.
it in their hand like this, like the
Yeah.
stereotypical, like we're gonna beat your ass. I just found that hilarious. But of course they go into the bar and there's a few patrons in there. I think maybe about 7 or 8 people in
Yeah.
the bar.
Yeah.
And they start, you know, causing trouble. And the patrons and the bartender are like, just get out of here. You're not welcome here. You're not a member. It's a members only place. And one thing leads to another. They claim that they're just there to kind of beat the crap out of them and send a message, as the one guy puts it. And they're kind of beating up a couple people, throwing them on the floor, and accidentally one person dies. I think a bottle breaks and it lands on the floor, and then they throw this guy over a table or something, and he falls onto the broken bottle, and he dies. So now they're like, shit. Like we didn't. I'm not really sure if I believe them when they kind of claimed they weren't going to kill anybody. Like because they went down there with some bad intentions, but now they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Now we're in trouble because somebody's dead. So they call their leader.
Now,
I don't know what you want to call
correct me
him.
if I'm wrong about this though. But I saw this guy and I was like, is that the fucking guy from Police Academy? That's like
I don't know.
The main
But he
guy,
looks-
it has to be, man.
The guy in the leather jacket.
Yeah,
That's
the guy in
Doug
the leather
Lunneck.
jacket is this. I'm thinking he's the lead heel
He's in
at
Police
the
Academy
end of
3.
Police Academy. Okay, one of those Police Academy movies. Like I was like, I know I've seen this guy somewhere.
Yeah.
And
But
it's like
he looks the part.
he plays a thug,
Yeah.
by the way, in that that's almost exactly like his character in this, but like much goofier, of course. So when I saw him, I was like, I just burst out laughing. But anyway, in this, he is really like terrifying.
He is.
So,
He's
yeah.
got like the short hair, short black hair, the jacket. Like he looks like a fucking hitman, right?
Yeah.
Like
He pulls it off.
They call him in. They're like keeping everybody in the bar, and he just comes in and he's like, well, obviously we can't let anybody leave because now somebody's dead. And so he's like, I'll take care of this. You guys just like go outside, to his like, you know, the gang members. And he just proceeds to line everybody up. It's brutal. This movie is brutal. You know, it's not very
make no mistake
unflinching.
about it. Like it's very violent.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm giving too much away, but I think this is just the setup. This is just the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So
First 15 minutes, probably.
yeah, he ties everybody up that's in the bar, kneels them down. He has a suitcase with a pillow and a gun with a silencer, and he just goes up behind each person and puts the pillow to the back of their head and shoots them through the pillow. Just
Execution
one
style.
by one, executes them. One guy had a knife hidden in his sleeve or something, and he's like, tying the rope behind his back, and he's able to cut the rope. He gets out of there, and they start chasing him. The gang members start chasing him, which leads us to where we are for the rest of the movie, which is an apartment complex. And he runs into the apartment, and that's where the real story starts. Really, that's where the film kind of takes its place. And it's like, okay, now we're in this apartment building. These guys, these thugs are after me. These people in the apartment take him in, and those thugs want the guy. They want the guy. They'll do anything, anything to get that guy.
It's kind of crazy because so they've got the lead heel in it is stationed as like a sniper on the other side on a building. And then they've got Goose and all those other guys are kind of just there trying to get into the apartment. So now it becomes Home Alone adult style, where all the people that are in the apartment realize that they're trying to get up there. So they start setting up all this shit to try stop.
I wrote down here are the ingredients, if you will, to what these people have to their disposal in this apartment. Because it's so first of all, you got, I don't know how many characters are in there, maybe 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
2 of them are blind. You have 2 blind people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
The other guys are just people that.
But the blind dude is really good with artillery. If you remember, he's fixing the gun and shit.
The blind dude can mess with things and build things. He just is like a savant, and he has insane hearing abilities as well, which comes into play later. There's 2 blind guys, and then some other people that just live in the apartment or are just there visiting their friends. So the only things that they have to defend themselves from these thugs are a knife, a .303 rifle with 2 bullets, only 2 bullets.
This comes into play, yeah.
Yes, a flamethrower, which is really just an aerosol can that they use, with flammable. Bow and arrow, of course, they only have 1 arrow. Plastic explosive for model rockets. So those, kits that you used to get, I guess, I don't think you can get them anymore. Maybe if you're at a space camp or something, they have that type of stuff. And screws and nails, so they can kind of make some explosives maybe. And then anything else that they can really just kind of jerry rig to keep these people from coming in. And eventually they do get in, but it's just insanity, man. The inventiveness of the movie, I think, is what keeps you interested, and I think the suspense just works super well.
I was going to say, it's one of the better movies like this at building suspense, and one of the biggest and best tropes in the movie is the fact that they have a double mirror in the apartment, and this comes into play constantly. So it's a mirror that looks like a mirror from one side and then from the other side, but you can open it and go to the other side, like a window almost.
Yeah, it goes into the next apartment.
Yeah, so they're the good guys hold up in there are constantly kind of keep track of what they're doing on the other side of this wall, and by looking through there and then kind of coming back in and then planning on what they're going to do. And that just makes it so much better because they know about this little trick that the bad guys don't know about. The bad guys are all armed to the teeth with machine guns and shit, and blasting through the apartments and all this stuff.
I believe they find out about that because there's sort of an attic or escape hatch thing
on the roof. Yeah,
exactly. So they use that. The people that live in the apartments, they go back and forth from one apartment to the other. And then the guy who's stationed across the other building, he's sniping at them. Right.
And he has the thermal optic, early thermal optic. It's
early version.
It looks like a fucking radar. Yeah, like an actual radar antenna on it.
Right.
And they're just shooting and they've got all, like you said, the machine guns and everything. And man, just like I said, the suspense of them getting in there and all those little things that I mentioned on that list that they have to use to defend themselves, and you're thinking like, there's no way, because there's certain parts where they kind of blow it with some of that stuff, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
that was a waste.
Yeah,
And there's
the
parts
gang
in it.
is so
Oh.
armed. I mean, they got so much artillery and their stuff is silenced. They got scopes and they
Yeah.
clearly have the advantage, but somehow they
Mhm.
fuck it up.
And there's parts too where like they've almost got like a perimeter set up, and anybody that goes past like a certain point, they get just absolutely like annihilated. And you find that out
Mhm.
at the very beginning, you know,
Yeah,
when one of
with
the
the
guys
door
goes
handle.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many good scenes though, where it's like, you know, you expect one thing to happen and something else happens like throughout the entire movie.
There's even a point where you kind of think it's over, or they think it's over,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. They're like, okay, I think we're okay right now, and then it's like,
Yep.
no, no, you're not.
Yep.
But like, I will say that anybody that hasn't seen this, you're totally missing out, because I said this to Uncle Bill earlier. I think this is, and somebody in the comments said it earlier too, that they might even like it better than Assault on Precinct 13. I think there's a strong argument for that.
Yeah, it
And-
might be a
and-
better film. It
Yeah.
really might. Just,
And I
I
think
mean,
at the very least, it's right there next to Assault on Precinct 13 as like the quintessential textbook of what do you do in an exploitation style siege film. Like there's like really nothing that I would change about this movie. It's you got the suspense, the acting, I was going to say, is actually really good. It's not too cheesy. I think everybody did a really good job, especially the woman. I can't remember her character's name. She was really great in this, and her husband or her boyfriend or whatever, they worked really well together. The chemistry between all the people inside, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah, they felt like real neighbors or real
friends.
couple.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very, very strong. I mean, they made the most out of what they had on a very small scale budget, but it works all around. I don't know if we should give away the.
no, I don't want
It's
to give
not.
away the
It's
main
not a
ending.
twist, but the tiny thing at the end is kind of cool, and I
Yeah.
totally didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a twist. It's not like going to change anything about the movie necessarily. It kind of does, but it's not like a huge, oh my God twist, but it's kind of like, oh,
No.
I see what they did there, you know?
Yeah.
So I couldn't
um,
tell you honestly, now that I think about it, like which movie is better, like Siege or Assault on Precinct 13. But I would just put it this way: like the Siege is like the Canadian counterpart to Assault on Precinct 13. So like if you like that movie and you've never seen
Mhm.
Siege, then you're almost guaranteed to like this movie. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's really well acted. It's got a good score. I don't think it has as
Oh, yeah.
memorable a score as Assault, but like
No.
it
No.
has a really good score, really good acting, really good like plot, writing, setup, like anything you can think of. Like it's just an incredibly well made film. And when we talk about, because I'm going to be talking about Tenement Game of Survival here in a little bit too, like it's so much more well made than that movie. Like it's so
Oh,
much
yeah.
better
I
than
agree
that movie
100%.
in terms of like it's ridiculous, man. They're both low
Yeah.
budget, but like one of them is like the trauma version of one of these movies, and the other is like
Yes.
The I don't even know, like the real kind of theatrical version of a siege movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I could
I don't
recommend
know.
it.
I don't know if it's on sale. I think somebody might have said it's
Somebody said it
discounted.
was, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it still has like the slip and everything. So keep it away from Rambo, because he'll rip it. But you
Yeah.
know, but yeah, anybody who's even questioning, like, it's worth owning 100%. There's no questions asked about that. Like, it is definitely worth owning.
I
Yeah,
agree.
so we just talked about this. So Joe, like he owns the Wiley butt pistol, just like the one Bronson uses in the movie.
Oh wow,
Jesus, that has to be awesome.
wow.
Something
cool.
tells me that pistol, does it jam a lot? Because I would think that it would. That's a 44, right? That's like automatic,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken.
Not sure.
Yeah, Roberta Finley, God bless her heart. Let's okay. So let's
Transition
transition.
into-
Yeah, let's transition from this, which is by the way, to I
Yeah.
don't own a version. I don't even know if there is a Blu-ray version of Tenement. I'm guessing there is, but I don't
There
own
is
it.
one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
questioned whether or not I should upgrade. The first time that I saw Tenement was in the Grindhouse triple feature box set. I think it was called Grindhouse Psychos or something like that. It was the
That's
Media
what I was
Blasters.
telling. I was telling Matt that before, and that's where I got it. I've still got that set, and that's
Me
the
too.
only version of it that I've got. Is like the DVD version of it. But
Yeah.
Tenement 1985's Tenement Game of Survival, directed by Roberta Finley, which it's going to be easy to explain this movie because there's nothing to it, man. Like there's absolutely really no plot.
Not really.
There's no like rationale, and you really don't need it. But it is like, just think, if you're thinking like, what's this movie like? Just think about like, what if Trauma made an exploitation style siege film, and that would be what this is. Okay, so there's a gang. They live in the basement of this tenement, and one day the people of the tenement decide that they've had enough of their bullshit. They're led by this guy named Chico, I believe, or Chaco, or
Chaco.
Taco, or something like that. Yeah, and like they decide to get him arrested. So they get him arrested. They go to jail. They get bailed out pretty much immediately. And then they're like, you know what? Fuck all these people that put us in jail. We're going to kill all of them. And that's the plot of the movie. So this is the great part. This is what makes it killer though. It's almost like a video game because they start on the first floor and it'll say like 8:47 p.m. first floor. And then
Yeah.
like, they'll attack like the first floor and then it goes like 10:22 second floor. And then they'll move up. Like, it's like they move up the tenement floor by floor, just like attacking people.
Which is a cool concept. It really
It
is.
is.
Like, especially with the time on the thing, on the screen. Like, it's effective if they just would have done it a lot better, like what they did.
Yeah.
A lot of the issues that I have with it are mostly like the characters don't really stand out all that much, other than they're very one note. It's like
they are.
There's not a lot of individuality other than like the different races. Like that's all that really separates one character from the other.
I think in the 80s, they thought that's all you needed, Mark. Like, you needed a Mexican guy, you need a black guy, you need a white guy.
Honestly, hey, we've come full circle because that's what movies are trying to do now.
That's true, yeah.
Right.
There was a lot of diversity in this movie for the gang, at least, and in the tenement as well. So, but like, you're right though. They don't have an individual kind of personality characteristics. They're just like whatever, And if I'm not mistaken, the one guy, if he's not this guy, he looks just like him. Was Cigar Head from The Toxic Avenger? He's got to be the same guy. And this is right around the time that Toxic Avenger was made too. The guy that smokes the cigar and stuff and like attacks him and everything in the first movie.
Right.
I think it's the same dude, but somebody can fact check me on that. Anyway, like, so the occupants of this tenement are basically like, oh shit, like what are we gonna do now? They pretty quickly like find out that they're raping and killing like everybody as they move up this, tenement. So they start to put together like a plan, and the kind of leader is this guy named Washington, who's this black guy who has some sort of like military or some background or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he quickly becomes like the leader, and it just kind of goes from there. I mean, there's scenes of like where like people shoot heroin up. There's scenes where there's grape, there's murder, there's
grape with a foreign object.
Yeah, there's stabbings. There's
I think that's a Cannibal Corpse
shootings.
song.
If it's not,
Great
it should be
foreign
an
object.
Yeah. And the only problem with this movie is it's so low budget that like the paint looks like or the blood looks like paint. Sorry,
Yeah.
and it's just got that cheap look to it, man. Like everything is super cheap. They don't show
Very, very
anything.
cheap.
No, in
Like
the movie, like I'll say, like I've only seen the movie once, and it was some time ago. It's probably been at least a year, and it's not a good movie. That's just my opinion. I know there's a lot of movies that I like that aren't good movies, but I didn't like this movie. I just everything that Siege does right. It's like if you took all that and just said, let's do that all wrong. Let's just make it totally one note. And that's really what it is. But if you're into those really bad, cheap trauma style movies, you may find some redeeming qualities, but I didn't. It's
did
just
you
not
all like
great.
the? I did like the tenement rap song.
I laughed so much.
Yeah.
It starts the movie off and ends it too. It's great. Oh
Oh,
man,
it's called Tenement Vanderhoff. That's the one we're on now. We're talking
yeah,
about that now.
The subtitle, I think, is Game of Survival.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome poster, though. Really
Great
cool
poster.
poster
Yeah.
art. Yeah. Really cool art.
Yeah, so Roberta Finley, who did the Oracle, she directed the Oracle, she directed Lurkers, she directed Primeval. So basically all of Vinegar Syndrome's early catalog, she directed. And that's kind of the style of this movie too. It's super cheap and super like just
Funny how they don't have that out.
it'll be
Vinegar
out.
Syndrome.
It's coming. Almost guarantee it.
I could see it coming up.
I mean,
think this-
I don't love this movie, but I don't hate it either. Like, I think that
Mhm.
it's like you should watch it at least one time. And that's probably all you need to watch it. But
Mm.
especially if you like this type of film, but it's nowhere near as good as like a lot of these. I don't think it's as near as good as any of these movies. The rest of these movies we're going to talk about. So
No, I think it has a good centralized idea. I like the gang, but the characters that they go up against, like I said earlier, it's just they're all one note, and
Mhm.
it's very weak in comparison to something like Siege. It doesn't have any of the good aspects or good qualities that Siege does when it comes to the characters that you want to see win and fight back. Like it just
right.
it doesn't have that. It's missing something, but
It's missing. You're right. It's missing any kind of characters you give a shit about, one way or the other on either side. Like,
Yeah.
like all the gang members, you don't know anything about them other than their color, like you said, and everybody in the apartment, you don't get to know anything. Even the main guy watching, you don't give a shit about him, like because he never
Right.
says anything or really like does anything. I think he plays a saxophone or something at one point. He plays some musical instrument, and you're just like, that's the most character development you get from anybody in the movie.
right.
Is just that part of it. So
Yeah, I would say it's definitely worth at least one watch. For me, it was one. It's like I watched it. I was like, I probably never watch it again. But it's so goofy and just it didn't. Nothing about it really stuck with me, I guess, is my bottom line with it.
no, it'll be a very forgettable.
Yeah,
I
a
just-
lot of what's in it you've seen done elsewhere and probably done better elsewhere.
Yeah, and I do think though, like you were saying, like I love the idea of like the way that it's the way that they do it though, where they're moving up one floor at a time and kind of like clearing the floor, and then it has like the timestamps for the different. It's like it all takes place in one night too, so that's another cool thing about it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what's next? What do you think we should do next?
I guess we should touch on Assault on Precinct 13, at least briefly.
Yeah.
I think you got to, yeah. I mean, it's the kind of like the Citizen Kane of this style of movie, yeah.
That is a much better cover than this one. I still have the Steelbook one with the sticker on it. This one,
Oh yeah.
See, I don't-
that cover a lot
I
better.
don't actually own this. The reason being is because I've been hanging on a thread about that 4K that's supposed to be coming out that is done, but apparently there's no release that's like ready to go. They have the transfer done.
That's
They've
Scream
shown
Factory.
I don't know if it's Scream Factory though. I know they have a transfer that's done that they've shown in theaters, but
Ah.
and it's been like going on for like at least 2 years now. So I don't own it. I've seen it multiple times, but I'm kind of like waiting to get the 4K. If you look into it, I do believe that the transfer is done, but it's just moving slow as hell as far as getting it out.
Like the Beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Beyond, I keep waiting. And every time they always post something about the Beyond in their emails, but it's like where they're showing the theatrical screenings. I'm like, dude,
Yeah. Just
don't
give me
quit
the
sending
damn.
me emails with like the Beyond in the fucking subject header. Just get the
Yeah.
4K out.
Exactly.
Like, I don't need to know it's playing in Louisiana tonight. I'm nowhere near any of these places.
Yeah.
Here's my thing about Assault on Precinct 3 that I think really makes it different than all the rest of these movies. Two things. The score, number one, is just you'll never forget that. It'll always like live in
It'll
your
just
head.
pop into your head randomly.
And then the main character in the film and all the one-liners and shit, he's kind of like a warm-up for Snake Plissken. Like, he is the beginning of that idea that I think that Carpenter had. And he plays it, to me, really, really well in this movie. And that sets this movie apart from like Siege and Tenement and things. You've got like a character that's like really memorable that everybody kind of references when they talk about this movie. That's like his whole thing is like one-liners and just like, you know, that kind of character, that tough guy character that would kind of come out in all of Carpenter's films eventually.
Yeah. It's like Siege, which I think it was important. I'm glad we talked about Siege first because I feel like people need to see both of these movies because they really are like right next to each other in terms of like quality, rewatchability, enjoyability, tension. They're very different movies as far as like the subject matter, kind of because the gang in this one has kind of got that not supernatural vibe, but it's got the cult kind of vibe to it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't really say a whole lot, if anything, ever, which was Carpenter's thing. That's what he wanted them to be, just merciless. And he had inspiration from Night of the Living Dead with the zombies. They're supposed to be like that in a way, but not supernatural, just a force.
Right. It's not supernatural, but it's like Michael Myers, where it's like, yes, he's a person. Right. But there is a supernatural element to like you said, the no talking, the just pure force and evil and violence, and you take the humanity out of the situation.
Well, you gotta kind of love that too, to a degree, to where like you need a mystery to some of these movies. You need like some sort of unspoken, which they have like a pact that you see them do in the movie, but they don't talk about it or anything like that. You just know what it is. Yeah, you just know that they're fucking just evil. And there's one scene that cements it in this movie, and it's the scene that everybody always like references and talks about when they talk about this movie. And I'll never get over it. The first time I saw it, like I'm pretty sure me and Wes watched it, and we were both like, "What in the fuck?" Like the first time you see it, you're like, because it comes out of nowhere, and it's just one of the craziest scenes. I don't think any of these other movies have a scene like this in it.
No, they don't.
It's so inappropriate that it's great. But to give like a real quick kind of plot for anybody that hasn't seen this movie, I gotta imagine most people on here have. So the cops at the very beginning of the movie basically gunned down like a whole 6 or 7 member gang, and it's playing on the news and all this stuff, and the rest of the gang hear about it, and they just kind of take an oath. You see them take like a blood oath kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
You don't know what exactly. They don't say anything. They don't ever speak in the movie like that. But like, you just know it's not good. And at the same time, all this is going on, like a bus is being diverted that has all these kind of like prisoners on it to this one precinct station where they're kind of being held over. And one of them is this guy named Napoleon, who's like, it turns out to be the lead of the film, who's the one-liner, joke cracking guy, always wanting a cigarette. That's one of his gimmicks. And Austin Stoker being the the sheriff and in the film as well, who's over this precinct. And so they're all held up here. And I think the precinct going out of business or something like that. And this is like the last time it'll be in service.
It's decommissioned.
Yeah. So
Yeah, they're getting ready to move everything from that
Mm-hmm.
precinct or whatever to a different one in a different part of the city or whatever it is.
yeah.
So it's kind of just like, yeah, we're closing up shop here. Everything's pretty much gone, but we still need somebody, a couple people here.
They have like a skeleton crew, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that particular precinct is the precinct that this gang decides it's going to completely like attack and just, decimate to take revenge on what happened to the other gang members. Now, previous to this, one of the people that ends up in the precinct is his father, who his daughter just randomly happens to like go over to this ice cream truck before all this happens. And the ice cream truck is getting shaken down by the gang. The daughter walks up, and I think she asked for a vanilla swirl or something like that. And the dude doesn't even look up and just like shoots her right in the chest. Just like that. She's like maybe 8 or 9, like something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, and the way he does
And
it,
it
too,
shows
it's like a paintball hits her or something. Like just like blood just like
Blood.
shoots up like that. Dude.
Yeah, I mean it's the perfect representation of like the end of innocence. I mean, what could be more innocent than like an 8 or 9-year-old girl eating ice cream?
Yeah, it's like, and just what an amazing setup for like that this gang does not give a fuck. Like what, without them having to say anything, the fact that they would do that, you just know like nobody else matters. Like they don't care. Nobody stands a chance like against them. Like they have no sympathy like for anyone.
Take no prisoners. Yeah.
And it does like have a really, really cool kind of like vibe to it when they get into the precinct. Everything's really well shot. I'm sure Cundy did the cinematography. I don't know that for a fact, but it just seems like he would have based around that time period. No, he actually didn't. Douglas Knapp did the well, whoever did it, it's amazing. And like on the inside, like, they're kind of just all inside there, and then they're just sniping people off through the windows and stuff from the outside in the beginning, and people, just are kind of going down there, and they start to come in and they're pushing them out. It's like it's like Night of the Living Dead kind of thing. I think that, Carpenter was a huge Hawks fan, so it's Rio Bravo and Night of the Living Dead kind of mixed. Great film though.
Yeah, action packed too. I mean, a lot of gunfire, a lot of gunfights. It's just badass all around. That score, like we said already, it'll get stuck. It'll just randomly pop into my head. Boom, 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 boom. It's just too catchy.
Yeah. And I think when we interviewed Carpenter, he said that it was like he just slowed down the Immigrant Song. That's how he came up with the thing. So the Immigrant Song is dun da 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 da. So he just took that and slowed it down really. Yeah. And that's where he came up with the theme. So if you listen to it, you're like, holy shit, that's exactly what it is. But it's just so good, man. And that weird stuff that Carpenter was always great at putting these weird kind of like sound effects into the songs as well. So it's got the main theme part, like the bass theme part, and the keyboard part that kind of comes in underneath that. And then it's got that weird drum thing. I cannot figure out what it is either. That kind of sounds like a maracas or something like that are played throughout it too. Like that are kind of like in the background as well. He just layers things like one thing on top of another thing. So like one thing will come in, then another thing will come in, then another thing until it like all builds up.
Yeah, layering of the sound effects.
Yeah.
And stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of memorable pieces of music throughout the movie, but the main theme is the one that's the most memorable for sure. And then you have I love the editing in it, because like a lot of the action scenes or shootouts are all punctuated by one cool thing at the end. And like you like the characters, you care about the characters. You mentioned the one-liners from the lead guy, and one of the best ones is where the guy's paying him all these compliments, and he's like, "Well, I'm still an asshole. You can't take everything away from me."
That's right. Yeah.
So it's got some fun dialogue too. I could really appreciate it. I mean, hell, $100,000 budget. They used every penny. It all shows. It works well. I love it.
Great cast too. It's got like a lot of people that Carpenter will go on to work with later.
Cyphers was
Nancy Loomis,
Mhm.
Cyphers. It's got Lori Zimmer in it too, who he didn't go on to work with, I don't think, but she has an amazing look.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that. Like that somehow or another really works in this movie too.
Yeah. Such a simple concept that, you know, they just took it and ran with it. It's just so effective in almost every way. It's like it's the perfect Siege movie, really.
It is. $100,000 budget too.
Yep.
That's just crazy to me, man. Like that he made a movie that good on $100,000 budget. It's insane to me.
I know. It's crazy. What do you guys think of the remake? I've only seen it once.
I never saw it.
I saw it. I didn't mind it. It's one of the few remakes where I was like, this is okay. Yeah.
It was okay. It was okay as it could have been.
It wasn't really anything like the original, I didn't think. I mean, it had a couple of the concepts of it, but like not the same style or anything.
No, definitely not the same style. I mean, all of Carpenter's film have that kind of permeating atmosphere that like drudges up this sense of dread and hopelessness in a roundabout way. But the remake, it was okay. One of the better ones, like you said. I could watch it again. I probably will go back to it after this. Since we're talking about Siege movies, I'd like to see it again. It's been a long time. I think that one was 2005 or something.
Something like that. It's really early on, like, yeah.
Mhm.
But, you know, it had, I think, what was it? Ethan Hawke was in it.
Ethan Hawke. I think Lawrence Fishburne.
He was the Napoleon character, wasn't he? Like, it wasn't called Napoleon, I don't think, but he was the same character, basically.
Mhm.
But I didn't mind that movie, though. I'll just tell you. Like, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I actually just went and grabbed another one because it's something about what you said about what did you think of the remake made me think of another movie that I was like, how the fuck did I not think about this? But we'll talk about it after we're finished with Assault.
I mean, that's really all I had to say about it. Like, it's a classic. It's the most well-known probably of any of theyese films that we're going to talk about tonight. And it is like the quintessential one of these movies. And if you haven't seen it, well, I don't know why you haven't seen it. You should probably see it immediately. Yeah.
So do you want me to bring
Yeah,
this
go ahead.
I don't know if either of you had this on your, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, but it is a Siege style film for sure. And any guesses? It's from the 70s, 74. And
Siege style movie from 74.
It is a Siege style movie from 74. And Kino has it out. So I'll just go ahead and show you. This is a fantastic movie and one that definitely everybody should see. I would put this up there with Siege, Assault, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
I've never seen it. So I have no idea.
No, you haven't? Oh my God, man.
Okay. I remembered liking it. I didn't even know that they put that out.
Yeah, this is the 4K.
Was that a recent one they put out?
Maybe 2 years ago now at this point.
Shit, I'm gonna have to grab that. I don't know how that one skipped my radar.
Oh man, so I can't believe you need to see this. So this is a Siege style film that takes place on a subway train. And they did remake this. I think
they did.
Yeah, they
Tony
did.
Scott.
That.
And who was in the remake? Was it John Travolta? Was he
Travolta.
in the remake? Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So it has been a little while since I've seen this. I actually haven't watched the 4K yet. I had the Blu-ray and I liked it so much that I'm like, I'm gonna sell the Blu-ray and get the 4K because I fucking loved it so much. So this is basically, again, it just takes place on a subway train full of everyday, just normal people, commuters. And what happens is this group of, they're kind of professional, um, I don't know what you'd call them, professional criminals, basically. And they are going to take over the subway train. And what their main thing is money. They want money from the city. So they're holding everyone on the train hostage. And their rule is, and they're communicating through the, the walkie-talkie system or the radio system for the subway station. And they say they're going to shoot and kill one passenger per minute until they get this money that they're asking for. And I don't remember the amount. It's some insane amount of money,
Yeah.
And they're able to stop the train dead in its tracks. They can move it if they want. They actually, what they do is the whole subway train, it has the multiple cars. They separate it. So there's only one train that they're on with all the people on it. And they kind of gather everybody into one train car. I think that's what happens. Very, very kind of violent movie as well. It's that 70s kind of slightly, it's not as exploitation-y as Assault on Precinct 13 or Siege, but it definitely fits in that category. And I love the poster art too. I don't think it's going to show up too well on here, but like you got I don't know if it's super easy to see, but you got like the machine gun pointing at all these people. They're
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
screaming,
Yeah, I see it
and like
now.
the woman holding her child. Like it's just like it's crazy, man. And it is a really well done, kind of edge of your seat movie. And
Was it on sale at any point during any of these last sales?
I'm not sure. It was on sale at one point on one of their sales, but
Okay.
I haven't, like, again, this came out, I don't know if this is 22. So yeah, it's been a couple years since they did, because first they did the Blu-ray and then a while later the 4K came out. But I mean, this is one that I 100% recommend buying when it's on a sale. I don't know if it's been on any of the recent ones. Like I've had it for a while, so I haven't really paid attention. But yeah, the ransom money and the violence, and people get killed, obviously. Nobody gets
Mhm.
off scot-free in this, but man, I couldn't believe that I kind of forgot about this
Isn't
being in
there
there.
a scene in there that I remember where they don't they do something to the train to like make it go without anybody
Without
driving?
brakes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're able to rig it somehow where it's able to move, and I think they take out the brakes at one
Mhm.
point. Like it's been a little while. I wish I could have like rewatched it before this,
I didn't even think about that. And like I said, I don't own it, but I would
because they
definitely
are
rewatch it.
trying to, I mean, I don't know, it's not the same as like, you know being trapped in a place and people are outside trying to get in. I mean, the police and stuff do try to kind of get in, but it's not a siege style film. It's in the same vein. Whereas like, Assault on Precinct 13, you got the gangs trying to come in. This is more of like the criminals are already there and holding people hostage. But I think if you're going by the stuck in one place and trying
Well,
to survive, I guess that could kind of fit.
yeah, I mean, like, there's so many of them, man.
Yeah.
That like the lines, the boundaries of what would be considered these movies are so thin that like
Yeah.
there's so many of them that could be considered that. But I'm gonna have to buy that now because you're an asshole
yeah.
and had to fucking bring it up. So
No, yeah, you'll like it. Like you really will. You'll love it.
that is the best
Walter
part about
Matthau.
doing these shows, though, is finding something new, that you didn't know, you haven't seen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not new per se, but I mean, it's new to me. I haven't seen it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's 74, so it's like that. It's got a slight exploitation-y vibe to it, but I feel like a lot of 70s films just, you think,
Yeah.
they kind of just all have that vibe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of them are really, really kind of gritty just by the way that they were shot. And they all kind of have that takeoff of the French Connection kind of look to them too
Yeah.
after a point as well. I was going to bring up one too, and there's a lot of ones like this. So I don't really want to open up this can of worms, but like I always thought like one of the films, the newer films, it's like the horror equivalent of a siege movie is You're Next. So
I was thinking about that earlier.
it's that movie is like, so a lot of these are exploitation or action films, but that movie is very much like the horror version of a siege film. So you got a group of people in a house that are like these killers are outside, like, and they're shooting into the house, like different kinds of weapons and things like that, killing anybody that comes out of the house, things like that. And yeah, but see, the problem with doing that is you could also say that The Strangers is a fucking siege film, and I don't want to get into that. Shit. I just do not want to like.
Well, I mean, with siege movies, you'd have to have characters that truly fight back, and they don't really do that in The Strangers. They just kind of get fucking killed.
They just kind of take it.
That's true. In Your Next, at least you have the really one good badass Australian woman character that actually like creates all the stuff, and
she grew up on a survivalist camp or something.
That's how they explained it really quickly.
Yeah.
I love that movie though, man. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, I remember liking Your Next quite a bit. Like it's been a long time since I've seen it. I know Walmart's had like that. They keep putting out those different covers and shit on the steel books and the Blu-rays, but I have yet to pick it up on any of those new versions.
Yeah, the second sight one is pretty good.
I forgot they did
that's the one I got.
I'm not sure if they still have that version, the limited edition one with all the extra stuff. I don't know if you care about all that stuff, but transfer wise, it's great as always. That's to be expected with Second Sight. But it's a very fun movie. We were just talking about that on the last stream. Ty West is in there, sort of playing himself, but not really.
Yeah,
he gets killed in it, which is just funny.
It's a lot violent.
Yes, very, very violent.
Who is the fucker in the beginning? That's not Ty West though. Who is the guy? I know him from something else. The one that's with the girl at the very beginning in the cabin that gets killed. He's somebody that's in a lot of these movies too, but I cannot think.
I'm trying to think. The couple that's like in the house with everybody else.
No, the couple that like they get killed like before the main movie really starts. Like they're inside and they're having sex and he's taking a shower and they're blah, blah, blah,
the guy who's like he's like drinking orange juice or some shit. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Ray Fessenden.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, I know he's in like a ton of like movies like that nowadays too. But anyway.
I'll have to check that. I got to do that. We'll check that one out again because it's been so long.
All those guys
I do remember liking it. The masks that they wear, the animal masks, look very menacing. Without, they're just animals, but they make it menacing.
Yeah. Yep. And it's somewhat loosely connected to that movie, The Guest, which is also directed by the same guy, because there's a scene in there where they talk about KGB and they mention KGB as well in Your Next and in The Guest. And then even at the Halloween party in The Guest, the guy in the background is wearing the same mask that one of the lunatics in Your Next is wearing, if you notice that. But it's just one of those little in things.
CJM says the phone booth is a siege movie.
I thought about that earlier. I swear I did. I wasn't going to bring it up.
The smallest area that you could be trapped in.
So you mentioned this one too, like at the beginning of the show.
And So I guess we can bring that up. I have it here, the Second Sight standard 4K version. This was the first time. I don't know why it took me so long to watch this. I just watched it today in preparation for this. And definitely qualifies as a siege film. It's an A24 movie. So Rambo Raff will love it. I know. I actually know he's already done a review on it in the past. I don't think he didn't hate it, but I don't think he liked it that much. But I really kind of connected to this movie, and I was talking to Uncle Bill before we came on, and Mark, you'll probably get what I'm saying about this. It. So, firstly, it's a very music driven film. So, not that there's music like the soundtrack or whatever, but it takes place in a concert venue, and it's a sketchy concert venue. It's a concert venue that is run by neo Nazis.
It's a Nazi metal band.
Yeah. So there's.
I'm sorry. I remember the movie. It's just that premise kills me. Like
yeah. So it's that punk aesthetic of like. Now, I was saying it. I related to it because I've been to not Nazi. I've not been to a Nazi concert.
Are you sure? Because you seem to be talking about it quite a bit.
I don't know if those exist anymore.
Sure,
maybe they do, but
Sure,
if you've been to like punk shows, like true DIY like punk shows where it's not even you could barely call the place a venue. Like I've been to some shows where it's very like punk heavy fans and stuff, where it's like people from the city where you're like, where these people just come out of the woodwork, and you're like, you never see them around in like day-to-day life, but you go to one of these shows and they're just like there's like 30 or 40 people like that look like they've come out of like, I don't know, 1982 or something like that, or the early punk scene type stuff. And so basically this punk band gets a gig at this venue, and they end up playing their show there. And as they're getting ready to leave, one of the band members forgets their phone in the green room, and they go in there and they see that somebody has been killed in that green room. And it was done by the headliner of the show, which is like a Nazi metal band. And basically they get caught up in it, and the show promoters, the owners there are like, no, like it's fine, nothing, like we're going to take care of this. They basically trick them and hold them there, and they are eventually trapped in the venue alone with the owners and the other band, and some of these just neo-Nazis are trying to kill them because they're like, we can't let them leave. So it's very violent. It's got some really nasty gore in it in a couple of scenes. It's not totally a gore fest throughout the whole film, but it does have some good special effects. And I just think like if anybody is like into like that kind of like punk music, or have been to like some DIY like live shows, you're kind of like, I've seen people that look like this. I've seen and so that part of it kind of made me had a strange connection to the movie for me, where I was like, yeah, I've been to like some shows where it's like you see some people around and you're like, I don't know if this is the safest place.
Some GGL and looking people in here that I need to like.
Yeah. So but it's it's definitely a siege film because they fight back. They're trapped in the green room and in the concert venue as a whole. You've got attack dogs involved in a couple scenes, and they really do have to just kind of make use of what they have in there. I think they have a gun, maybe one gun at one point, but I enjoyed it. I don't. It's not like the greatest siege film I've ever seen, but I would definitely put it up there with the ones that I enjoyed. I don't know if both of you have seen it, right?
Yeah,
you said earlier. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
and it was, I think, 2015 or 14. This one came out,
dude. It just, because I was looking this movie up because I just wanted to see who the director was. Did you know that the director is also the same guy that directed that Rebel Ridge movie that just came out on Netflix and was like huge on Netflix?
Yeah, I liked.
No, I haven't seen that.
Rebel Ridge is really good. me think. Oh, I don't know if I'd consider that a siege movie or not. Really.
That makes perfect sense though, because those movies are a lot alike, like
Yeah.
the way that they're made and everything.
Oh, did you saw Rebel
I
Ridge?
saw Rebel Ridge when it came out, like probably
Oh.
the day that it came out, or the day after. Like I love movies like that, like where it's just some
That
guy
was
that like,
so different, wasn't it?
yeah. I mean, it's like, what would you compare that movie to? If you
It's
had to, like a
I-
Walking Tall kind of style movie or something like.
kind of, yeah. I guess you could compare it to that. That's probably the closest thing that I could think to compare it
Yeah.
to. But it sits in a sort of a class of its own, where you have a guy who's going up against a corrupt small town police force, basically.
Yeah.
But it's not like every other action film where the hero goes through guns blazing and gets revenge by killing all the cops. It's like, in fact, he does the opposite, where he tries as hard as he can to not kill anybody, all while still taking guys out and sort of rescuing a friend of his and getting revenge, sort of, for his cousin that they've killed. So it's very good movie. Yeah, I'm surprised you've seen it. You was that one recommended to you, or you just stumbled across it?
No, just any kind of movie like that on Netflix, I'll watch. Fuck, that's where I watched. What was the other one that was very kind of similar to that? Like Netflix occasionally has movies like that that come out that are decent. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, none of them are going to blow your fucking socks off or anything, or your skirt
No.
up, but like
No.
they're decent movies sometimes.
Mm.
By the way, just as a side note to this conversation, you should also see Green Room because it has Imogene Poots in it.
Anton Yelkin was in that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Patrick Stewart.
Would that have been one of his last movies since he passed away?
I didn't know he was dead.
I didn't know that either.
Holy shit, is he fucking dead?
Yeah, I mean, he was a really young guy. He was killed by his own car or his truck or something.
Oh, you're not talking about Patrick Stewart, are you?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was
going to say, yeah, you're talking about the younger.
You're talking
yeah,
about
the guy in the band. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was because I think I read that he passed away like not too long after this came out.
That's fucked up too, by the way. That's still fucked up.
Yeah.
He was 27.
Yeah.
He was very young.
Yeah. So that's
and
a lot of stuff I liked. He's always really good.
I was going to say the acting in this, like everybody does a fantastic job. Like the acting in this is so good. It's like you really get that vibe that it's like these are bad people. Like these are scary bad people. Not the people in the band that is kind of the victims. They're all kind of likable people. They're just kind of in a typical punk band. You know, they don't have any kind of extremist things about them, but they kind of get tied up at this venue that they're just, you know, they're a broke band. They're just looking for a gig. Right. So they're likable, but the people that, you know, the neo-Nazis and stuff, it's just like, they really all pull it off where you're like, man, these people are not people you want to mess with or get hooked up with, because there's some nasty stuff going on in that movie. And the cinematography is also really nice to look at in the movie. It's got like a kind of a real contrast heavy kind of vibe to it. I don't know if you guys remember that aspect.
I do. Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, it's nice to look at. It looks really good on the 4K. But yeah, I definitely recommend Green Room. I as a first time watch, I mean, I would watch it again. It's not kind of one of those ones where I'm like, I don't need to see it again. I think I liked it enough to, you know, I'll definitely give it another watch at some point.
So I'm going to stop it here. We're at 1:30, and I think that we've covered like the main movies that like I really wanted to go over. It, by the way, just as a public service announcement, like these two to me are like the ones that perfectly encapsulate like what that is to be like that kind of movie. If you don't own either of these or both of these, I should say, like go ahead and own these like immediately, if
Yeah.
not sooner.
I think Siege is actually it might still be on Tubi because I think that's
Mhm.
where I first saw it was Tubi. But I recommend just blind buying it because
Yeah, I do too.
you don't need to see it on Tubi. Like
No, it looks so
you need
much
to own
better,
it.
dude. On
Yeah.
on Blu-ray, like just go ahead and get it. Yeah.
And
But
Severin put that out. So
yeah, Tenement is on Tubi, so I
yeah,
It
recommend
is. That's where
you
I
can watch
watched it.
Tenement
Yeah.
on Tubi.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
watched
you
it
can.
again today, and I was like, "Oh shit!" It looks even worse on Tubi than I remember. Like, yeah,
Tenement's probably on YouTube also.
it has its own special
Probably.
charm, though, guys. It really does. Like, especially if you like trauma films. But anyway,
Yeah.
Next Sunday is going to wrap up this particular season. I'm going to start doing these like Cobra Kai, where we do like a brief season, and then you have to wait like a couple months to do another season. So the next and last one that I'm going to do, the theme of the next show is going to be possession movies, not The Exorcist, but that whole slew of fucking possession movies that follow The Exorcist, like Antichrist, Beyond the Door, all that stuff. Like that's going to be kind of the basis for the next series or the next show that I do. So yeah, anybody that wants to come prepared with all of your like Exorcist themed rip off possession movies that came out around that time, because that
was Beyond
became
the
like
Door 2? Which one was that? That was the
there was
Beyond
the
the Door. What's that one called?
there's the really shitty one. Wait a minute,
I thought,
look it up.
yeah. Now I'm blanking on it. The one with the little kid
Yeah.
in it.
Shock.
Shock.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
God damn, what a bunch of awful movies. I can't wait to talk about them.
Shock isn't terrible. I wouldn't say it's a terrible movie. It's not great, but I own it.
I did mention this in somewhere at the beginning, Mayor, that VFW like was one I wish I would have thought of because I could have gone back and watched it again. But yeah, it's definitely a Siege movie. It fits into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate Matt, Mark, you guys joining me. Another great addition to this series that's gone on way longer than I ever thought it would. Like, we'll see. Like in terms of when we do the possession.
But we've been talking about doing this episode since like the very first
very
episode.
beginning. Yeah. And I swear to God, it was only for the reason to talk about Siege. Like I didn't have any other reason to do that.
Yeah.
So that should tell you something about that movie.
Yeah. Really good.
But yeah, Mark, you got anything going on? Are you going to be doing anything? Like you're doing 40 different fucking shows with me and Rambo. So
yeah. I'm still going to have that Terrifier video up, but actually one thing I want to ask you, Canucksploitation, have you covered that yet? I mean, Siege is definitely one of them. Do you plan to do just like a show only focused on that?
I plan to do a bunch of, I've got like a list of things on here that I do, but Canucksploitation would definitely be one of them. Yeah. Okay. As would Ozploitation at some point, even though I don't fucking really like those movies, but still a lot of people do. So it's like worth talking about,
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it though.
What about you though?
Man, I don't have any video. I don't got any videos planned.
I always waiting on you to fucking have some videos, Matt. Like,
watch
come on.
me one day just drop this like feature-length film on my channel or something. But no, I'm like, no videos planned. I did a couple shorts not too long ago. Like I feel like I'm a lot better at doing like those 20-second, show something off real quick. Like I got that Substance prop from the Substance. I did I showed off the new release for Eyes Without a Face, the 4K from Umbrella, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was a set that I had to have because I love that movie. I think you guys covered it, didn't you? You did a
review of it. Yeah.
great movie. But yeah, no videos planned at the moment.
Well, you need to get on that because I'm
I
sick of
know.
your shit, man. All right. But until I guess the next thing we'll be doing on the show is the interview with David Gregory. I can ask him about this movie and be like,
Yeah.
Siege, like, yeah. That'd be
You're
killer
like,
if I just that started out with that.
Yeah, passionate about Siege, eh?
If anybody, speaking of which, if anybody has anything either release wise or just related to everything that they want
Stage
asked
fright.
on that. Okay.
Stage fright.
I was gonna say, just like send me a message, let me know on here. Because like that interview's coming up and there's so many different things that we could talk about. I'm trying to get like a birth of what people want to talk
What the hell happened with Four Flies, man?
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be almost impossible for us to do this interview without talking about some of the bad shit that they've done. Like, I don't know how he's going to take it, but it's probably going to get brought up. So, we've got one shot at this.
It up as just curious fans, like,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm excited for that though. That's going to be. You're gonna have to keep an eye.
It's
on
going to
the
be something.
section.
I don't know what it's going to be, but it's
people in
either
the comments
go
are going to be going over the
It's going
top.
to go really well
Exactly.
or really horrible. Well, listen, it's not going to be live. There ain't no fucking way I would be live.
Oh,
yeah, it's going to be taped.
Oh,
you think I'm crazy, man? People on there be like, fuck you. They be sending like fucking, steals of me saying that and stuff in the chat. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. But anyway, until then, and until like I guess Friday Night Lives on Friday when we do that again, and then the last episode of ExploitNation next Sunday. Yeah,
we got to do hot takes.
Hot takes.
That's got to be. I mean, we did Frozen Terrors, even though that should have been more, I guess, about Frozen Terrors.
I was thinking about that, but I'm like, man, like so many different people have done that type of show. Like
Right.
I do that fucking type of show. But you're right, the hot takes thing. That's right up Rambo's alley too. Like,
get ready. We're gonna offend a lot of people, I'm sure, piss a lot of people off. It's gonna be, I think, the funnest episode. It should be the most interactive one because I want everybody in the chat to chime in with your hot takes. We're gonna give ours, of course, but there's no ranking, none of that shit. We're gonna give our hot takes, and I want to see what everybody else has. Right?
Y'all know a bunch of mine.
Yeah.
Hey, already. But until then, I'm Uncle Bill, and for Matt and Mark, I appreciate you guys being in here. We will see you soon on the next ExploitNation. See you guys.
See y'all.
I want all these people to click everything they're supposed to click.
You haven't been liking them, you haven't been subscribing to them, you haven't clicked the bell or notification or anything like that.
Folks, why don't you click the like button?
Do you hate us? Do you not want to see us succeed?
Why don't you click the heart button?
Is this something that you have against our particular show?
Why don't you subscribe?
You should click on one of them buttons right now if you want us to continue to breathe greatness into your life.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. You know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
Weird what other fucking Patreons do. They're like, hey, give us money and then we'll let you see a video early that we're going to release like a fucking week from now, and then that's all we're going to give you. Meanwhile, we have a literal jukebox full of songs, thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram and help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So Dead Pit on Patreon.com. Join today. Tiers start at only $1, but I'd